AI is something that can be applied to pretty much anything that we do, to anything that you do. Like we use it internally here, like to do so many crazy things. But this is stuff that will start getting implemented into softwares eventually. Like there. Now with the AI, I can give it the picture of a kitchen and say, describe this kitchen. And then it will say, this is a really nice wide shaker kitchen with 3 stools and an island and stuff. And it's getting there. So once we have that, what will be preventing us from adding, like turning that description into a voiceover that will play in the videos that you're presenting to your customers. So now you have like that really nice, and it's not even a robot voice anymore. Like it sounds like a real voice. And stuff like that. Like the AI will help us translate everything. I can take all of my tutorial videos now, and within a couple of seconds, I'll turn them with my own voice in Spanish, in German, in all those different languages.
Welcome to Verify in Field, the Millwork Podcast. Your host, Jacob Edmond, CEO of Ductworks, will be interviewing experts in the industry to bring you insights and knowledge about the latest trends, techniques, and challenges in millwork. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the world of millwork. Here's Jacob.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today, I have an exciting guest, Jonathan Blackburn with Vortek Spaces. He is the senior product evangelist at Vortek Spaces. And today we're going to talk about his background in millwork, in the industry, how he got into millwork software space, and his journey to Vortek Spaces, and then talk about what Vortek Spaces is, the software and the company, why they exist, what they're doing for the millwork industry, which sneak peek, they are a rendering software that works very well with a lot of the software you listeners may be using today. So but Jonathan will get into that as we go. So thank you for joining today, Jonathan. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Pretty excited to be here. I love what I'm doing and always happy to be sharing with people.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you on. We actually met, I think, first at AWFS in Vegas.
Yep.
And obviously I've been following along with you, what you guys do. We have some clients that use it and some partners, and we've looked at using it with our clients as well. And so excited to talk to you about what Vortek Spaces offers today.
Great.
I think to get started, though, if you could give a little bit of a background, just your background, your journey into millwork and kind of how you got to where you are today with Vortek.
Yes, thank you. So, like my story kind of started a different way than most people, and when I was younger, I was in high school. I was pretty smart in high school. I had like very good grades and everything. Everything in my path was going towards university, going in administration, business, or something like that. That was always something that was really, very entertaining for me. But then after that, the way it works here in Quebec is that if you want to go to university, you have to go to college, and then you have to do like just generic courses in college. When I got there, I ended up with a bunch of psychology courses and things like that were just not interesting at all for me. So I ended up just taking a break from college, decided to move and travel a little bit. I learned to speak English because maybe you noticed, but I'm French Canadian, so that's why I have that weird accent. But I ended up traveling out west in the Rockies, spent a couple of months there, learn English. When I came back, I was just in pause of college. I was going to go back eventually. But then one of my friends called me and said, we're looking for someone that speaks English that can answer the phone to, the company I work for. So I said, yeah, I can answer the phone. That's probably one of my good qualities. So I ended up working there. And that was a kitchen cabinet company in Quebec, but selling all across the United States. So, we had all of those customers over there. And after 3 months, the boss called me back in his office saying, and I was really excited about that meeting, thinking that he would, give me a promotion because I was that good. But the first thing he said was, Jonathan, you were probably the worst person I should have hired to do this job. And I was, what? Everybody's calling. I'm so excited to speak with everyone. I asked them how they're doing, what's the temperature there and all of that. But he said, that's the issue. You're supposed to just answer the phone and forward the call to the right person. So at that point, he said, you can either go in the ordering department or in the factory. So I said, I don't like dust much, so I'll just go in the ordering department. So from there, I spent 5 years, in that department, starting from just a guy, typing the orders, being to, manager of the department, training the new employees and all of that. At one point in the business history, Cabinet Vision came into the play. So they were trying to sell Cabinet Vision. They wanted us to buy it and to try it. And back then, even if I was not in the production per se, I was always the one that was kind of very good with computers. Like for me, it was always kind of easy to do whatever I wanted to do with that. So when we were offered Cabinet Vision, the boss said, Jonathan, just take Cabinet Vision for one day. If you can produce cabinets within one day without any training, that means it's easy enough and we'll be able to learn it. So we ended up getting Cabinet Vision. And then, after about 5 years, the guy that was selling Cabinet Vision hired me. So I ended up selling Cabinet Vision. I did that for about 10 years. So I sold Cabinet Vision here in Quebec, in Eastern Canada. I traveled a lot in Canada selling the product. And I would say probably after like 7 years, one of our customer that was a Cabinet Vision customer called me and said, Jonathan, I've met that incredible company in Quebec City. They're like right in your backyard. I live in Quebec City as well. And they do all kind of crazy stuff with 3D rooms, virtual reality and all of that. You should give them a call. I want to work with them. I want to find a way to make it work. So it all started back then. I went to meet those guys, and the system that they had over there was a virtual showroom. So the idea back then was to have like 3 TVs that were on top of each other's. They were all 3D TVs, and we had like Kinect sensors, so infrared sensors, so you could just move your hand around on the screen, change colors and stuff. But the thing with that system is that people would buy it with 5 specific kitchens or 10 kitchens that we had to draw and design and make look very, very nicely. They were all pretty expensive. So, it had quite a nice marketing impact for our customers that were using it, because it was, big setup in the showroom that was attracting people. But after a while, what we realized is that people didn't want to see somebody else's kitchen with your colors. So like they wanted to see their own kitchen. So suddenly we started trying to work to get Cabinet Vision projects to go directly inside of Vortek Spaces, with a lot of help from the Cabinet Vision people guy. Like they added stuff, they added the options in Cabinet Vision so we can import those files on our own. And then, I was selling Vortek Spaces through Cabinet Vision back then. And then after about like 2 years, I made the switch and decided to come and work directly for Vortek. So, for me, whenever I was selling Cabinet Vision, and I mentioned Cabinet Vision because that's what I was selling, but it's pretty much the same thing with most other softwares. The rendering capabilities, they all have some sort of rendering capabilities, but most of the users, they're not that good with computers, so it's a little bit harder for them to learn to spend enough time or to do enough renderings to be very good and very efficient. So that's why with Vortek Spaces, what we do is try to take that whole experience of trying to create a beautiful image, beautiful video walkthrough, but making it as easy as possible.
Okay, awesome. So a couple questions. One, you mentioned that your friend told you about this company that was doing this virtual showroom. Was that Vortek Spaces?
Yeah, exactly. So it was called Vortek Experience back then, but that's basically how it started. And then what happened at one point is that that's a system that was sold for maybe about like 50 grand, but most of that money was just TVs and racks and cables and computers and stuff like that. That was a lot of work for us to manage, to maintain, and all of that. And what happened at one point is that the 3D TVs, they kind of went out of market. When we started you could get like a 3D TV for about $1,200 or even less. So the whole system was like $3,600 of TV. But then after a while, not like if you want to get a 3D TV now, it's more about like 8 grand or 9 grand to get a TV. So like just that whole system just doesn't make any sense now. And I would say that virtual reality is kind of replacing those things. So now you can get a headset for about $400 and you can do pretty much the same thing, but now you're immersed inside of the project. So it makes it even nicer. So that's really when we decided to stop selling the equipment and just focus on the software. So that's where we're able to bring the price down way much. And now we can sell it online. We use Zoom. We can sell it all over the world. It's pretty easy. So yeah, like that's really what motivated the change there. And also that I remember one of the first time when I was sitting in front of the 3 TVs, holding a mouse on my lap, trying to do the adjustment. When I came back to the office, I said, guys, like maybe we should create a small version on the computer so we can just go and do all of the adjustments on the computer, and then after that we push it back to the 3D TVs. And that's basically how that new version of Vortek came to be alive. So we needed to have something that works on a computer so we can get the big TVs to work. And at one point the small version of the computer just ended up being way more performing than the one that we had on the 3 TVs. So
Okay, so the version that is Vortek today kind of came out of that.
Yep.
Hey, it started as this exclusively 3D experience and this whole package, and then you said, hey, can we make a desktop version essentially that we can use to edit, and then that really ended up being what you use now.
Exactly.
Okay, so now in your new role, can you explain your role in Vortek Spaces today?
Yes. So I'm sales and product evangelist. So that's a cool title that we came out with by typing a lot into ChatGPT. Trying to say like this is all that I'm doing in one day. Can you help me figure out a title? That's the one that came out of ChatGPT. I didn't like the kind of religious connotation of being an evangelist, I guess. But this is also what I'm doing. I'm sharing the good news about Vortek Spaces. My job is really to tell everybody how cool it is and make sure that they understand that. In my day roles, I manage most of the sales. So we have resellers all over the world. Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, France, and all of that. So I take care of all the resellers. I do most of the product demonstration also. So when people book online, I'll spend time with them. I always like say that I'm like the John Hammond. You remember Jurassic Park? With John Hammond, like every time there's a new egg that's about to hatch, he will go and he wants to be there and he wants to be the first smell of that dinosaur. So I like to say that I'm like that with our customers. So I'm always like the first smell that they get with our product. I'm the first introduction. I'm kind of the face of the company. When we do trade shows, webinars, and stuff like that. So that's really like one big part of my job. I also oversee all of the technical support. So we have people doing technical support, but a lot of that will go through me as well. And the other part of my job is that I'm half product owner. So like product owner of a software, it means that I'm the one that will help decide, what will be the next feature, what's the best demand. So I'm getting all of those feedbacks from all of our customers all over the world. And, I'm the one that will try to determine which one needs to be done first and which one should be prioritized like that. So it's pretty exciting. Whenever there's a new button, I know that at some point I probably had some say about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, and so now can you tell us a little bit about the software itself as it exists today? So like I can go online, I can buy a license of Vortek Spaces. And right now, like when people buy it, when they're using it, what are the ideal customers? Like what are people using it for? And how are they using it?
Yeah, so overall, Vortek Spaces is doing renderings by importing CAD files from other software. So I mentioned Cabinet Vision because that's what I was selling back then. So that's the first software that we kind of supported in the beginning. Then after that, we added SketchUp, Microfilm, Mosaic, 2020. So most of the software is nowadays they can export some kind of 3D format file that we can then import inside of Vortek Spaces. So the idea with Spaces is really that most of those softwares are really good at cutting parts, putting holes, dowels and hinges and all of that, calculating the size for the machining. But when it gets to textures, to colors, to like the beautiful stuff, that's not where they put most of their effort in development. So that's really why we decided to kind of take that part of it. So one thing that I mentioned is the textures. So like one of the biggest challenges when you do renderings, and that will be with any different softwares, is that first you need to have good quality textures. So how do you get that? And if you go back about 8-9 years ago, you would go on those manufacturers' website, try to get images, and they would be very low quality, low resolution. They would not be repeatable or seamless images. So that means you would see like just squares of images repeating all over the place. So that was actually one of the first things that we had to do, was to contact all of those laminate manufacturers, and through a different side of our business that we call Vortek Surfaces, we started digitizing those laminates. So customers like Uniboard, for example, Aroco, Tefisa, and other people like that, they would send us all of the 4x8 sheets, and then we develop a system with cameras, with lighting, with computer system that will take all like pictures at 300 dpi, then mix them all in the computer. We can get a 3D effect. So when you look at a laminate in Vortek Spaces, you can see if it's a registered embossing laminate or if it's just like a high gloss finish. So you can see really those difference in the software. So making deals with all those different companies and being able to supply all of those images to our customers, that's really one place where we were able to save a lot of time. In most softwares, if you want to add those images, you need to go online, find all of the JPEGs one by one and kind of bring them inside of the software. So, images is one place. The other place where we have a big impact is that with Vortek Spaces, we use video game technology. So when you do all of the lighting, and the lighting is pretty like the biggest beef for most people doing renderings. It's always hard because you set up the lights, you don't know exactly how to do it, how to set it up. With Spaces, since we use video game technologies, everything that you do is live. So when you add a light, you see the result. If it's not enough, you can just increase it, and you always see kind of like the final result. It makes it a lot more intuitive. So everything that we do in the app, we want to make it easy and fun for our customers. I always like to joke that if you want to play with the sunlight, there's a sunlight button. If you want to take a picture, it's a camera button. So we make it very intuitive as well. We kind of hide most of the settings. So if you were to compare Vortek Spaces with other rendering tools out there on the market, we have a lot less option. But that's really what we want to do. Our goal is to put just the options that people need, and then automate everything else. So there's a lot of things that happens in the background that you don't see the sliders or the options in Spaces, but that's only because we determined that that's what you should be using to do into your projects. So we're trying to put preset values everywhere that we can, so people don't have to play with each of those sliders. So typically, what we're trying to do is bring the whole time to create and generate those images and videos in under 15 minutes. So that's really where it makes a big impact. And also that the fact that you can still make changes in your CAD software, because we know that in the kitchen industry, like the project that you present first to your customer is not the one that will end up being sold. So, you do that nice presentation, then after that you have to change a couple of cabinets, change a couple of sizes, but then you don't need to redo everything in Spaces. We'll just upload the difference, and then the cabinets will be added or removed from your renderings, but you don't need to redo or resave anything in your project as well.
Awesome. So what is the workflow? So my understanding, and expand or correct me where I'm wrong, but like if I use Cabinet Vision or Microvellum or whatever it is, right? Essentially all of those produce a file that is, you're drawing your rooms, your products, whatever it is, in 3D in a DWG or in some file, and you can basically export that as a file that you can bring into Vortek Spaces. So you basically take all your 3D objects, your cabinets, your products, and in Vortek Spaces, then you can, like you mentioned, apply your textures, your patterns, your colors, do lighting, and make renderings and make a 3D presentation that's not just 3D objects, but actually looks somewhat realistic. Is that accurate?
Exactly. So all of those softwares, they will export some type of a CAD file. I always like to call that my skeleton. So, it's a good image for people to understand. And once you bring that skeleton inside of Spaces, you dress it up with nicer materials. Then we also have like thousands of 3D models. So the materials was kind of the first phase of the software. Then after that, we added 3D model decorations, because again, if you look in Microvellum, Cabinet Vision, most of those softwares out there, if you put a range or a range hood or a fridge, in most cases it looks like a square stainless box. But we started putting very realistic items. If we put a range, we'll make sure that the numbers will lit up on the range. So it adds really like one more step of realism to your project. With all those 3D models, you can add, and we started slow with appliances, but now you have trees with moving leaves. We have cats and dogs that are animated in the project. They don't walk around, but they wag their tails, or just move their heads around. So when you're in sales environment with your customer, having a little dog that moves in the corner when you show them the video will just make the whole situation more fun for everyone. And when you do sales, having a lot of little fun, I guess, is part of it, and that really helps the whole process. So you can decorate, you can add appliances, food on the countertops. We have the whole Wayfair catalog. So Wayfair is about 40,000 different models that you can just go and pick and put inside of your project. You can even use the link after that to provide to your customers, so we can buy that same tool on the Wayfair website. Once you do that, so basically applying the materials, putting decorations, after that you add your lights in the software. So all of that part, again, it's done live, so it can be done in less than 2 minutes. After that, the way we go about doing the pictures is that we go with what we call viewpoints. For people that are using SketchUp, like scenes would be the equivalent or something like that. But those are just like different locations inside of the room. So every time I save, I get a new set of pictures every time. And it takes about half a second per picture. So when I was mentioning the changes, if you have to change just the color in the kitchen, you just change the color of the floor, you save again, you get a whole new set of pictures in less than 10 seconds. So you don't need to wait. And if you use traditional rendering, you're probably waiting between 1 minute to 10 minutes per image. So if you need to redo 3 of them, that means maybe 30 minutes of your time just to save those pictures. But with Spaces, we do it instantly. And then after that, from the viewpoints, which are just like different locations inside of the room, this is how we'll record the video walkthrough. So the camera will just start from the first viewpoint and record a video walkthrough, going around your project. So, from the same one step, that's how you get both the pictures and the video. And when you record a video, we have options where you can add a soundtrack. So for example, the soundtrack is very important when you do the presentation live with the customer. When you're inside that room, you're all excited and say, hey, Mr. Customer, just come here, we'll watch your kitchen video. If it's silence in the room, then it's kind of awkward. But if you have a nice music, nice ambient music, then people will start commenting and saying, oh, wow, this is great. It looks good. And this is what you want to have in that sales environment.
So, can you talk a little bit about some of the actual, what are some type of customers? So I imagine maybe it's a residential cabinet company, right? Like they manufacture cabinets, or maybe it's even just a design company and then they buy the cabinets, but say I'm a cabinet manufacturer and I work directly with my homeowners, my clients, and I use Cabinet Vision. And so maybe I'm using Cabinet Vision to draw the products, and then I pull that into Vortek. I can apply my surfaces, my patterns, set up lighting, add some products. If they say, hey, we're going to buy this stove, we're going to buy this refrigerator, we're going to put this table, I could render it. And then obviously I can bring the client in and present to them in person, right? That's an option. Are there other ways, like sending, like you mentioned, images? Obviously I can create rendered images and send them. What are some kind of normal, typical workflows of how clients are utilizing Vortek Spaces in their client interaction workflows?
Yeah, so typically, people will and this is always, being a salesperson myself, there's one rule in sales where you say, like, you always want to control the sale as much as possible. So, first thing, when you present your project, just make sure your customer comes to your showroom. You want to do that in person. You want to sit with them. You want to, discuss about that. You don't want to send everything remotely and say, just call me if you like the video. Especially, when you work so hard to create a design, you want to be sure that you're the one that will be presenting it. So with Spaces, you do generate that video. So I always suggest people, like, just come in the office, watch it, and then review the project. Once you sign it, then after that, you do have a YouTube version that you can send to the customer. So then that's when you have that kind of like word of mouth, marketing that happens, because you give your customer this video and then he will start showing it. And I got to redo my own kitchen last year. That was very exciting, being in this industry for like 20 years and finally redoing my own kitchen. But, at every step of the way, when the guys were coming to lay out the tiles on the floor, I would just say, hey, just come in the living room, look at the video, like this is what the kitchen will look on top of this, and that's very exciting. The other way also, and this is something that if you want to talk a little bit more about the future, but like VR is something that is quite big now, and what we create with Vortek Spaces is a virtual room. So that's why now we have VR experience add-on that people can use as well. So whatever you create in Spaces, if you put on the headset, you connect it to the computer, now you can walk inside it. So that's really a different different experience. Again, coming back to my experience when I was I was in my old kitchen putting the headset and then walk into my future kitchen. So when you're in VR, you can use your hand, you can try to touch the upper cabinets, you can see the distance, you can walk around the island, you can actually see the real dimension, if it will be good enough for 2 people to be in there and to stick there. And the VR is a really nice experience also for most of the customers when they come to the showroom, because the whole thing there is a sales experience. So you want to make sure that your customer will be at ease, they will be happy, they will be excited about their project. So whenever they get to come to your showroom and visit their own kitchen in a virtual headset, that's always something that brings your closing rate would be higher, that's for sure, when you have something like that.
Yeah. So you said you have resellers pretty much all over the world. Do you find that use cases or kind of the needs of the different types of clients, like that there's differences by market at all of how people utilize it or kind of what their workflows are?
I would say as far as workflow, it's pretty similar. What we would see different would be like materials. So for example, like our customers in Australia and New Zealand, they will have different sets of materials than the one that we have here in North America, because they're just different suppliers that we don't all have the same suppliers. Then after that, a lot of trends would be different. So, like normally if I look at a project, I can like pretty quickly say, oh, this is a New Zealand project, this is a UK project, or they all have a lot of big trends. But then after that, whenever you use the project, it's pretty much the same way.
Okay. And then as far as like, are there, obviously you've got certain manufacturers. So you mentioned like you're working with them to get like their laminates and things like that. Are there different manufacturers and things by country or region you're having to work with as you're expanding that you're finding? Or is it, or I mean, there's certain
and I would say
players like Wilson Art?
It's always a hard work, trying to reach those guys, because just to get a set of JPEG images, you need to reach like directors of marketings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's always a big thing. Nowadays, it's much easier. Most of those companies, they even have images available on their website that we can use. Like it's there for people like us to use. All those manufacturers, they want designers to use their product in their renderings, because that's what you end up buying at the end. And the best example for that is when you do like a kitchen design. If you put some type of plant in the corner, most of the chances that the customer, when he's done his kitchen, he will try to find that exact plant to put in the same corner. So when you see something that looks like a finished product, you want to recreate that as much as possible. So all of those manufacturers and like if I go back when we started, like it was really hard to reach all of those peoples, but now 8 years later, those people are calling us to be inside of Spaces. So it shifts the workload a little bit, and we really appreciate that all those companies now, they realize how important it is to be shown to in the rendering softwares.
Right. Okay. So what does the future hold for Vortek Spaces? Like what, is there anything new that you guys are
actually maybe
expanding on?
Maybe before that, if you don't mind, I just want to mention about I guess you could probably just cut here, but I wanted to mention about the fact that people are looking for image, like the quality of the images. So I don't know how you can ask me that. Like what are people looking for in a rendering software? Like maybe you can say that.
What are people? Okay. So what are people looking for in a rendering software? Maybe when they come to you, or they don't even realize, what are the options they have. What are some things that they're looking for in a rendering software to begin with, that you're able to speak to with what Vortek Spaces offers?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So typically like people they go wrong about it. Like when people are looking for a rendering software, what they're looking for is for the software that will produce like the best image possible at the end. But what most people will tend to forget is that what is the end goal of what we're doing? So, what is the reason behind even doing rendering in the first place? And, the reason is never to tell a customer, hey, is it a picture or is it a rendering? If you win, you have a discount or something. So, it's never the goal. Like the goal of creating that image is for the customer to project himself inside of that room. That's really what you want to do. You want to have your customer that can visualize himself walking inside, cooking inside, having people over, inviting people over like that. So that's why with Vortek Spaces, what we focus on is not the actual quality of the rendering at the end. Like the quality is kind of it's a side thing. It's nice that we have more quality. We always have more quality every year with new features. It looks more realistic, but what you're trying to achieve with the rendering is have something that is basically good enough. And once you reach that good enough, that means that it's good enough for your customer to understand the space, to know that they want to buy the kitchen, and to give you a check. At that point, that's where you stop. So everything that you do on top of that, so sometimes I see people, they will just spend like 8 hours working on the rendering. Probably that if you stop after 1 or half an hour, the customer will still understand the room. He will still find it very beautiful and everything, and then he will still buy the kitchen. So in our industry, and this is different depending in different industries, but in kitchen interior designs, we do quick designs. We want to make sure that we don't spend too much time, we don't spend too much money working on the design, and making sure that we can get that project at the the end, build it and install it. When you do renderings for condominium units, for example, like they do one picture or one set of picture that will last for 5 years when they sell like the whole 100 units. So like those guys, like that's where you want to have that photorealistic type of image. But in the kitchen, you want to have something that is good enough for people to buy the kitchen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think the same thing goes with even just shop drawings. A lot of times people focus, and I'm sure they're very critical up front, when they're exploring the software and like, oh, well, can it do everything that I might need for the edge case scenarios? But really, I imagine what Vortek Spaces does is it creates an efficient and fast way to get to a really good result in a repeatable way that's a workflow. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that workflow? So say I'm using it through my design and selling process, and I've done, I've detailed my room and put my products in Cabinet Vision, for example, and I pull that into Vortek Spaces and I do design a rendering, and then some things change. What is that workflow like as the design changes between the two softwares and updating, getting new renderings? Are there settings or things that you're able to, hey, once I've set these up, I can pull them, or am I starting from scratch every time in Vortek?
Yeah, it's actually one nice thing is that when you first import your project inside of Spaces, it will be linked with the original file. So like whichever software, like for example with Microfilm, it's IGS files, with Cabinet Vision is VOK files, but all you have to do is re-export the file and override the original file. And Spaces will know that there's an updated version and just load the changes. And when we're talking about being efficient and quick, like that's really one place where it makes a huge difference. Like how much time it takes to get to the first rendering is one thing, but how much time it takes to just do a modification and get a new set of images and new videos and all of that. With Spaces, you do that little change and you have all of your images instantly to send back to your customer.
Nice. Okay. And so what are some of the, can you talk about any, particular success stories of note, of clients or companies that you've seen that have leveraged Vortek Spaces and it's kind of changed the way they work, or they've adopted, made really great use of it in the ideal way that you guys intend?
It's always hard to find like like the perfect story. Like we have a lot of happy customers. We have customers with multiple licenses. They set up, like the VR industrial room. It's bringing a lot more sales. But what happens is that it's really hard to say that it's really Vortek that made the whole difference. Like every time I ask a customer, he will say, yeah, we set up everything with Vortek, but we also spend way more in ads in the magazines or on the radio or stuff like that. So, the whole industry will also have an impact on that. But overall, yeah, like I said, a lot of our customers, and our customers will range from one person on a laptop to larger companies of hundreds of people. And we can cater to all of those different companies. So and if you're good with a computer, or if you're not good with a computer, you'll be able to use that. So it makes it very, very nice. But one success story that I always like to mention is that one morning I was doing just a generic webinar on Vortek Spaces, and then one of the guys that was in the webinar, by the end of the day, he sent me a video of the project he had done. So after the webinar that was like from 10 to 11, he was able to download the trial, import his own project and create a beautiful video with no experience at all in one day. So, this is something that when I hear stuff like that, this is really what makes me happy. Like knowing that people can do stuff like without prior training, without being very good with other types of rendering softwares.
Awesome. So today, Vortek Spaces is an application that, I think is very cost effective. I can very easily go on your website and buy it and start using it, right? You guys have a lot of content. What does kind of the future hold for Vortek Spaces? Obviously you guys you're growing your client base, continuing to add things to your catalogs and libraries. If I'm buying into it today, what are some of the things that I can look forward to or expect from you guys in the future?
So, with Vortek Spaces, it's a software that is in constant evolution. So, we don't have version 1 or version 2 every year or something like that. So every month, every 2 weeks, we add new features. It's installed on the Microsoft Store. So whenever we push a new version, our customers, they have access to the new features. So we always make sure that we don't move stuff around so people get lost, but it's always an incremental changes. So people don't realize, but we add stuff all the time on that. So always new features. I would say in the future, what will be coming will be be a little bit more capabilities, because when we first started, it was more like single license customers, but now more and more we have people that have like 10, 15 licenses. So now we're working a little bit on cloud solutions, so we can all mix the projects together and use that as an enterprise. I would say VR. VR is something where we develop at the same speed as the industry of VR is developing. What I mean by that is like the more we get better headsets, the better computers, better everything, the more we can produce better VR experiences as well. One good example, Oculus came out with the Oculus Quest 3 this year, which is a really nice improvement compared to the one that they had before. So for us, it's the same application, but now it looks nicer, it's more comfortable, it's faster when you move around. So, VR more and more would be there where it's getting easier. A couple of years back, if you wanted to do VR, you had to buy a big computer with water cooling systems and stuff like that. Now I have a laptop, I just connect my VR headset onto it, and I can walk on, inside of my project. So VR is something that is really nice. And then the other thing, and that's something that I guess impact pretty much any industry, and if you don't think it impacts your industry, maybe you should check again. But AI, AI is something that can be applied to pretty much anything that we do, to anything that you do. Like we use it internally here, like to do so many crazy things. But this is stuff that will start getting implemented into softwares eventually. Now with the AI, I can give it the picture of a kitchen and say, describe this kitchen. And then it will say, this is a really nice wide shaker kitchen with 3 stools and an island and stuff. And it's getting there. So once we have that, what will be preventing us from turning that description into a voiceover that will play in the videos that you're presenting to your customers. So now you have like that really nice, and it's not even a robot voice anymore. Like it sounds like a real voice. And stuff like that. Like the AI will help us translate everything. I can take all of my tutorial videos now, and within a couple of seconds, I'll turn them with my own voice in Spanish, in German, in all those different languages. And we've made some tests of that. It's not released yet, but all of our videos will come out in all those different languages right now. I would say it's not perfect yet, but we made Spanish people listen to our videos, and they said, it's just good enough. I can understand everything now. And for them, it's a lot better to have that maybe weird Spanish accent than to have video in French or in English. So
yeah, awesome. So that's another thing I wanted to ask. What resources are available for people that buy the software today? Obviously, it sounds like you have videos, and probably some training resources. So is that all on your website or on YouTube, or where are those resources, and what do you guys have that you provide for new customers?
Yeah, so basically we always offer what I was mentioning before, like that first meeting with customers, either before they get started or once they get started. I'll spend like a good 45 minutes with them. I want to make sure that everything works fine. I show them all of the basics. Then after that, we do have videos on our website, tutorials. We add what we call pro tips, which are whenever we have a new feature, we'll just output like a quick video to show people how to use that new feature. We have a live chat on our website, so that's really like all support and technical. It's included in the subscription, so you can come on our website, use the live chat, and ask us questions. We will accept questions by phone and by email as well. And then we will also provide extra training for people. But I would say that's one of the beauty of Vortek Spaces. We don't have to sell that many training. It's very intuitive. So once if you add that first 45 minutes, sometimes it's just like another 10 minutes of questions, and you'll be good to go. And then, like I said, since we do webinars on new features, like people, they will just follow, and they get better, by following whatever we provide.
Awesome. So before we wrap up, there's a couple questions I'd like to ask each of my guests, and you've touched on some of this already, but I'm interested from your perspective, especially being in the software space. What do you see changing in our industry, in the millwork industry as a whole, over the next 5 to 10 years?
I would say what I see changing a lot is more collaboration within softwares. And, that's something that, and I remember, like, if you go back maybe 10, 15 years ago, like the software, we're all trying to be like a very closed phase, if you buy this software, like, this is how you do everything, and that's it, that's all. But now more and more, what we realize is that, and you know, the same way that we realized that we were better off to do the renderings than most of the manufacturing software, now there will be, like planification softwares, they will be better than manufacturing software to do planifications. So now all those softwares, they have to open up. They have to, open the doors to give different options. Like most of those softwares, like they do offer renderings, but they did open the door for us to be another option for the customer. So yes, you have something that comes built in with the software, but if you want to have something more efficient and faster and more intuitive, then you do have the option to go with Vortek Spaces. So like I said, and it's really hard to think now that, same thing in a shop, thinking that in a shop you'll have all the same brand machines that needs to work with one specific software. Like that's not something that will happen anymore as much as we used to see in the past. So all the machines, they all needs to be working with different stuff and, all communicate together.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think so. More collaboration and integration between different software solutions for the industry. Mm-hmm. On the flip side of that, what do you think will remain constant? What will stay the same and not change over the next 5 to 10 years?
In my mind, what will stay the same is that kitchen is not something that you buy because you need one. It's something because, you want a kitchen. You change your kitchen because it's a dream, it's a renovation. So sometimes I see a lot of companies, they see that as product, but you should see that more as emotions. Like people are really happy, they're really excited. Nobody buys a granite countertop because that's what you need to be able to cook on. You could give me a plywood sheet, I'll be able to cook on that. And whenever my plywood sheet is I can just rip it off and put a new one. But I want granite. Why? Because it stands out, it looks nice, this is what I want. So you have to think of the kitchen not just as a common use product, but as something that excites people, that will it's a dream of someone to get a new kitchen. And whenever you do that, and like I said, I've done my kitchen, and I've been so excited whenever I have people over, like they're all, oh yeah, so nice your kitchen. So it makes me proud to have a nice kitchen, and that's basically what is in the whole industry. So we have to stop thinking about it about just dowels and screws, and just think about like this is something that will let people have people over and cook with friends and have really, really good time with the family. So
awesome. No, I agree. I think that makes a lot of sense, and definitely from a sales and kind of marketing standpoint, how people think about it is understanding the end user and kind of what their motivations are from purchasing it. So well, I really appreciate you taking time out today to share about Vortek Spaces and about your background. If people are interested in finding out more about Vortek Spaces or reaching out to ask you more questions, what's the best way that they can find out more and contact you?
So they can visit our website, so vortekspaces.com, and then they'll find all of the information. And like I said before, we have a live chat, so they can ask questions, and they'll find all of the email information to contact us as well.
Awesome. I'll make sure to include that in the show notes, a link there to make it easy for everybody. So thank you again for joining in today, and I'll look forward to staying in touch and talking in the future. I assume you'll be at IWF, the Atlanta show?
Yep, I'll be there.
We'll definitely see you there. And until next time, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode and got some good stuff out of this. And hit that website and reach out to Jonathan to find out more about the great things that you guys are doing at Vortek Spaces. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify in Field.